Good evening and welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for this public hearing. This is a public hearing for an Eagle application to install a permanent dock, a permanent boat hoist, and to dredge. Project is located in Charlevoix County. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with Eagle's Environmental Support Division. I'll just be moderating the hearing tonight. So with that, got a couple things to go through before we get started. This is what our agenda is going to look like. I'm going to go through an introduction, which we're doing right now. Big thing to keep in mind is that this hearing tonight is going to be in two parts. We're going to start off with an informational session where the applicant has an opportunity to present some information on the project. And we'll follow that up with a quick Q&A session to answer some of the questions you may have on the application and project. We'll go over all the ways to submit official comment. And then we'll go through the official hearing part where you can make an official comment for the record on this application, and we'll explain how we're going to do that a little bit later. But a couple things you should know first. All lines are going to be muted during the hearing. If you have a question for us at any time, you can submit the Q&A box in the Zoom toolbar. However, we will only be answering questions you have about the application and project during the Q&A period, which we'll have after the presentation. You'll also be able to raise your hand and ask a question verbally. We'll explain how we're going to do that a little bit later, though, so you don't have to worry about that specifically right now. And also, just so you are aware, we are recording this hearing, and it will be posted on Eagle's YouTube channel in a couple days. All right. At this point, I'd like to invite our other Eagle staff on the line to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves.
Hi, Washington. I work out of the Gaylord District office. I will be the hearings officer tonight. Like I said, I work out of the Gaylord District office. I cover Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams, Part 303, Wetlands Protection, and Part 325, Great Lakes Submerged Lands Permitting in Emmett and Charlevoix counties. I am also the staff member who is processing this application. And here with me tonight is Joe Haas.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I'm Joe Haas. I'm the district supervisor with Eagle's Water Resource Division. I supervise field staff in the northern lower peninsula, covering regulatory resource programs in the 12 counties within the Gaylord District office. I've been doing regulatory and civil servant work for over 25 years. Just wanted to thank you for taking the time to be here this evening.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron and Joe, for the introduction. And we're going to roll right into the informational session that I talked about. So we have Tom Cunningham with Lyons Marine Construction in the audience, and we're going to unmute Tom so he can go through some slides that he has. All right, there you are. All right, Tom, you should be unmuted. I have your slides here. Just let me know when to change them for you. It'd be great if you could keep it to around 10-15 minutes so we can stay on schedule tonight. And you can begin when you're ready.
Sure thing. Can you hear me okay, Ryan?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for setting this up and hosting and all the work you all do over there at Eagle. I'm Tom Cunningham. I work with Lyons Marine Construction. This is a family business. We are a third and fourth generation marine construction business, predominantly working in Lake Charlevoix, Round Lake area. And we've been doing this work for about 50 years now, a little bit more than 50 years. Next slide, please. So the project we're talking about today is located on Lake Charlevoix in the South Arm. You can see about midway between Ironton and East Jordan on the east side of the South Arm at Briggs Sorber's property. Next slide, please. This is in Eveline Township, as I think as was noted on the intro slide. This just shows the parcel information for Mr. Sorber's home there. You can see it outlined in yellow off of Crosby Drive. Next slide, please. So here is a site plan for the proposed project for the permanent dock we plan to install for Mr. Sorber. This is to replace a long existing use of a seasonal dock at this same location. And what we are proposing to build, as you can see, extends approximately 200 feet waterward of the ordinary high water mark that you can see, which is kind of a squiggly line near the top of the screen there. You can see the distances to the property lines to the adjacent riparian property owners. 49 feet and 94 feet respectively there. This is a 6-foot wide dock in a figure 4 or H shape, which is a well accepted configuration that Eagle has recommended and is included in various guidance documents for sort of acceptable shapes of permanent docks. This is very similar and consistent to plenty of other docks that we've built around Lake Charlevoix. We plan to install the 200-foot main pier along with a 22.5-foot finger pier you see and a 40-foot finger pier that you see that will make up that figure 4 or H shape. And within that slip is where Mr. Sorber's 27,000-pound capacity permanent boat hoist would be installed. The figure 4 shape is nice because it enables the property owner to access their boat from 3 sides and safely enter and exit the vessel. You also see there's a proposed seasonal sun deck that would be attached along the end out there that can be pulled in and out seasonally on the piling that would be there as well. We're also proposing to dredge a minor quantity of dredged material out of the slip and adjacent areas along the dock. This is mainly to ensure the safety of vessels coming into and out of the dock and for the hoist to have enough room to operate. You can see there's depth soundings that are notated there ranging from 3 feet out to 4.5 feet in the project area. And we plan to dredge that out just a bit to get it down to about 6 feet is where it is comfortable for a boat hoist to operate for a boat like Mr. Sorber's, a 34-foot boat that drafts, 4 feet or so. And that dredge volume is 366 total cubic yards is what we estimate there. Again, this is if we were getting a dredging permit, this would be considered a minor permit. But we did apply for an individual permit here because there are some irregularities with the project. One being the location not being exactly centered within the property. You'll see that it's closer to the adjacent riparian owned by Ted Sherman. And you can see the setbacks there for the distance away from that riparian line are well within the bounds of the Eveline Township zoning ordinance. There, they want any structures to be at least 10 feet off the riparian boundary. And these riparian lines do correspond to a professional survey that was done to ensure that Mr. Sorber's dock is well within his riparian area and meets all zoning requirements. You can see the dredge zone does extend a bit further out beyond the dock. Again, that's to give plenty of space for a boat to come into the boat hoist, back out, turn around, and be able to head out from there safely. Next slide, please. So this image is just a profile shot to give you an idea of sort of what the piling configuration looks like. So this entire dock would be built on 10 3/4 inch steel pipe piling. So those are round piling. One of the advantages of our steel dock design is that it uses far fewer piling than any other dock design, including wood timber docks or seasonal docks. We have a 20-foot span on average between those main pier piling going out. So that helps to reduce the overall footprint of what is in contact with the lake bottom. And you can see there that sort of shaded area, again, is that dredge zone where we're trying to get down to a 6-foot depth of water. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just share with folks to give you a sense of what the previous seasonal dock that was being used, what are we replacing here? So you can see Mr. Sorber's dock and boat hoist that he had been using stacked up on the shore there. The seasonal dock that he had been using did present various challenges. His hoist wasn't quite enough to hold his boat in at different points due to wave action and soft bottom in that area. He has had the experience of his boat falling out of the hoist and the entire hoist tilting down into the muck. And we also are showing a picture here with a tape measure showing this pad that is the bottom of the foundational support of that seasonal boat hoist. You can see it measures 3 feet in length. It's 2 feet in the other direction. So 2 by 3, 6 square feet per pad on this seasonal boat hoist that we're looking to replace the use of. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to provide some scaled comparison images to give folks a sense of what we mean when we say that we feel that a seasonal boat hoist and a seasonal dock are really in many ways have than our permanent docks are that we propose. And I bring this up because we are often asked, isn't it a more feasible and prudent alternative to use a seasonal structure to secure the owner's boats at this location? And aren't seasonal docks less impactful? And while that is certainly a controversial point that I'm sure will be discussed at some length, I just wanted to show for comparison by using a permanent boat hoist how much less of the lake bottom is actually being contacted and disturbed. So if we just consider a seasonal boat hoist foundational support, you've got 4 pads, 6 square feet each. That's 24 square feet of structure in contact with the lake bottom that goes in and out, so gets moved and disturbs the lake bottom twice annually. The permanent boat hoist that we build typically goes, again, on those steel pipe piling. The overall square footage in contact with the bottom of the lake from that permanent boat hoist is only 2.52 square feet. You got a 10.75 inch round pipe. You do your little formula and you come up with that square footage. So just for comparison there, one of those boat hoist support pads has a greater surface area, again, touching sediments on the bottom of the lake, more than 6 steel pipe piling. So overall, if we're just thinking about the boat hoist portion of this project, you've got nearly 10 times as much structure in contact with the lake bottom versus a permanent boat hoist. And then if we consider, in talking to Brig about how they've put his seasonal hoist in and out each year, the folks that come and install it for him often have to put wooden pallets or pieces of plywood under there that can have an even greater footprint. Your average pallet is roughly 13 square feet. So imagine that also being laid into the lake bottom and either being pulled up or just buried in the mud every year and more stacked on top of it. So just to think about scale here, I show you here the scale of 4 permanent piling. The entire dock plan, including the permanent boat hoist, consists of 26 of those steel pipe piling, which adds up to less than 17 square feet in total of structure contacting the bottom of the lake. So if, again, just thinking about the boat hoist, if we consider, that nearly 10 times as much structure in contact in the bottom of the lake over, let's say Briggs going to use this dock we build for him for the next 40 years. That would be approximately 760 times more sediment disturbance based on contact with the lake bottom from those boat hoist pads compared to this permanent boat hoist installation, which happens just once. Next slide, please. So this image is to give you a sense of how Mr. Sorber's proposed dock would be situated within his riparian area relative to those around him. And so the nearest permanent dock to Briggs' proposed dock is his neighbor, Ted Sherman. So that dock you see to the left with a boat moored alongside of it is another permanent dock built in the exact same style of what I've just described for what we would like to build for Mr. Sorber. I know it's often a concern when we're proposing to build a permanent dock, is it going to impede navigation? And Brig was very specific in asking that we build this dock to go no farther than his immediate neighbor's dock extends out into his own riparian area. So you can see outlined in green approximately where this dock would be located. It goes no further out into the lake than the neighbor Ted Sherman's dock does. So I think that's my last slide. If you could just check. Yep. So that's the last slide there. Overall, we think that this is the right solution. This is what will fit the owner's needs so that he can safely moor his boat, so his kids and grandkids, and he and his wife can swim in the riparian area safely. And we think this is the right solution for how to make this all work. So that does it for my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that information, Tom. We're going to move right into the question and answer session. So if you have a question, please feel free to either type it in the Q&A box. You can raise the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen and we'll call on you. And then you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. Or if there's anyone calling in by phone, they can select #2 on their receiver. And that will raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. One thing to keep in mind is this is a Q&A session. If you want to make a statement for the record on this project and application, please hold on. That's going to be the next part of tonight where we're doing the actual hearing part, where everyone will have a chance to make a statement on the record for this project. All right, so let's see here. Looks like I do have a raised hand. Luann Kozma, we are going to unmute you. You can unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, very helpful. I've just got 2 quick questions. How long is the applicant's current seasonal dock? And how much of the dock, proposed dock, would be above the ordinary high water mark, if any? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Luann.
Yep. So being a seasonal dock, it has varied in length over various years. It was approximately 210 feet long the last time it was installed. As far as how much of this dock would be above the high water mark, we could flip back to the actual site plan or profile it'll show. I think I had 7 feet of no, I'm sorry. None of it is above the ordinary high water mark. It's 7 feet below the ordinary high water mark at this location.
Okay. Right. Yeah, thanks for that question and for the answer. Let's see here. I don't have any other open questions right now. We'll give it a couple seconds in case there are others who would like to ask a question. If not, then we'll roll into the next part of the evening, which will be to go over the other ways to submit a comment. And then I'll go ahead and start taking your comments. So with that, still not seeing any other questions. So we're going to go ahead and keep rolling. And again, if you're on the phone, actually it doesn't look like we have any phone callers. But you can select #2 to raise your hand as well. And we'll go through that information when it's time to give comments. All right, so with that, we'll move on. I want to go through the other ways to submit an official comment in case you didn't want to do one verbally tonight. There are a couple other ways. You can do it through Eagles My Enviro system under submission HQ5-TWQM-HT7DW. And we're going to put that link in the chat so that you'll be able to access it. Or by mail to the Gaylord District Office, Water Resources Division, at the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, P.O. Box 30458, and that P.O. Box is in Lansing, Michigan, 48909-7958. And the open comment period, it's open until March 2nd to provide any additional comments. All right, at this point, we're going to kick things off. So Erin, I'd like to invite you to read the opening statement before we start taking comments.
Thanks, Brian. Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin Emmington. I am the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE. I will be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HQ7-TP3R-B4B2. With me tonight is District Supervisor Joe Haas. So tonight I will begin with some background information about why we were here. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I will outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. It will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend a majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I will read the closing statement. So for some background information, the Water Resource Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection, or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, PA 451, as amended. We are here tonight because Mr. Sorber has proposed the following: to install a permanent open pile dock measuring 200 feet long by 6 feet wide with 2 piers, one measuring 24 feet long by 6 feet wide, and the other measuring 40 feet long by 6 feet wide. The applicant also proposes to install a permanent boat hoist measuring 16 feet wide by 16 feet long and to dredge 363 cubic yards from 2 areas, one measuring 40 feet long by 70 feet wide to a depth of 1.5 feet, and the other measuring 40 feet long by 70 feet wide to a depth of 2 feet. The applicant proposes additional maintenance dredging of up to 137 cubic yards within the same areas for a total maximum of 500 cubic yards of material to be removed per the life of the permit. In order for a permit to be granted, Eagle must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 301, Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the lake. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 of Act 451, Eagle is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. First, the department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. And second, the department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any waters of the state or other natural resources of the state. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in Mr. Sorber's project an opportunity to provide information that Eagle can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that Eagle can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that Eagle must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that Eagle is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. So in just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Petoskey News Review on January 28th, 2025. As we discussed at the beginning of the session, if you have a comment to provide, please raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant has had a chance to describe the project as proposed. Second, we will call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on those that raise their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to Eagle via My Enviro portal, email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If needed, we will indicate when your time has ended. We ask tonight that everyone be courteous and respectful to one another. Please also recognize that Eagle staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. The hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be a part of the information Eagle will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this hearing is open for 10 days following the date of this hearing, ending on March 2nd, 2025. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day comment period will also be considered in Eagle's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, Eagle will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed, issue a permit with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the Eagle My Enviro portal website and searching for the application number, HQ7-TP3R-B4-2B2. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling on the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, many thanks for reading the opening statement, Aaron. A couple quick things before we get started. Just to let you know, if there's more than one person on the line that would like to make a comment, let me know. It's one comment per person. So if you have someone else there when you're called upon, just let me know. They'll state their name and can also make a comment. As Aaron mentioned, each person will have 4 minutes. You'll see a countdown timer once you start your comment, and it'll count down from 4 minutes so you know how much time you have left. And then also when you have 1 minute left, you'll hear this sound, just indicating you have a minute left, just so you know how much time you have. As Aaron mentioned, we have, during registration, you could have indicated if you wanted to make a comment or not, and we are going to start with the people on that list who indicated they want to make a comment. But everyone will have an opportunity to make a comment, can do so by raising their hand in Zoom. If you're on the phone, you can select #2, that will raise your hand. And I have one person during registration who indicated if they wanted to make a comment. That was Luann Kozma. So Luann, we are going to unmute you, and then you'll be able to unmute yourself and can begin when you're ready.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for holding the public hearing. I am the president of Protect Lake Charlevoix Shoreland, and we, as an organization, already sent in some comments, but tonight's comments are my own to add to it. And I will paraphrase some of my written comments that I'll be sending in. I live on Lake Charlevoix also, and I oppose the project and I urge Eagle to reject it. There is a reasonable alternative, a seasonal dock. I'm concerned with the cumulative impacts of additional permanent docks and boat hoists on the lake for several reasons. One is the use of public trust waters for what amounts to a permanent structural occupation of those waters by building permanent structures on bottomlands. The Sorber dock footprint would take up 1,840 square feet of lake surface area. That's more area than the median size house in Michigan. The Charlevoix County Future Land Use Plan reports that there is, quote, nearly a complete build out of non-publicly owned lakefront property. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's referring to development on uplands. A permanent dock is an extension of that build out onto now bottomlands. And I'm not sure where things are at this time as to the build out status of permanent structures on bottomlands, but on Lake Charlevoix, but it seems this trend of encroaching into public waters with permanent structures has the potential of doubling the amount of development on our lake and shoreline. The Sorber dock and the neighbor's existing dock in the visual that was shown to us earlier tonight are so close, it pretty much would cordon off the whole area of the lake in between these two docks, preventing the public from using that part of Lake Charlevoix. So that's another concern. Number two, I'm a kayaker. Going out around these long structures puts people in non-motorized craft at more risk for going out, further into the lake. I'll reserve my comments about bubblers for my written comments, but another comment is about dredging. The permanent dock application says it would have less impact on bottomlands, just with disturbance than a seasonal dock, but I think it's the opposite in that the applicant is not putting into the equation the disturbance of the dredged area. So that area is 70 by 80 feet beyond, some of it is under the dock, some of it's beyond the dock. And that's 5,600 square feet of disturbed bottomlands. So clearly that's way more disturbance to the bottomland than a seasonal dock with its usual metal vertical pilings, even with those extra pads that was mentioned. I'll also reserve my comments about invasive species. Is that the 3-minute mark?
That's 1 minute left. Yes. So I guess 3 minutes.
So maybe I'll just say another thing about, I think that the quagga and zebra mussels, the invasive species in Lake Charlevoix and the Great Lakes would be increased a bit with a permanent dock, which would be submerged year round. They die in the cold, and when seasonal docks are removed, the cold weather, is killing them off. And to me, it seems like a permanent dock, especially the cumulative impact of many permanent docks, especially in a concentrated area like the South Arm, would really contribute more to the proliferation of these invasive species. And I'll leave it there. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, thanks for your comments, Luann.
You bet.
All right. Now, at this point, we'll leave it open to anybody else who would like to make a comment who's on the line. If you're in the audience on your computer, just click the raise hand icon and we'll call on you in turn. If you're on the phone, you can select #2 on your phone, and what that will do is raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number, and we will unmute you. All right, so with that, okay, it looks like first up is James Briggs-Sorber, and then after James is Ellis Bowl. So James, you are unmuted on our end. You can unmute yourself using the microphone icon. It should be at the bottom of your screen, and you can begin when you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, Luann, thank you for your comments. Ryan, thank you for the opportunities. Well-organized meeting. My name's James Sorber. I go by Briggs-Sorber. I've lived at that location. It's been a cottage of ours for over 16 years. So we've had a seasonal dock there for 16 years. We've had one next to Ted Sherman, and Ted Sherman's actually sitting next to me right now. So Ted also had a seasonal dock. So our seasonal docks have been there for many, many years. And so as far as the footprint of this dock changing anything, it really won't. One of my concerns also is the environment. And if you take a look at my seawall that I put in, instead of putting a cement seawall in, I put a stone seawall in that goes up on a 45-degree angle that allows all kinds of animals, including snakes, which my wife's not too happy about, up in the yard and back down again. So anything that we do there, we try to protect the property. This dock, permanent dock, is no different than that. To Tom's point, it's going to be less invasive to the bottom. Watching these boat hoists be dragged in and out, it's actually scarring the bottom of that. I've seen it for 16 years. And to have it out there and sitting there, everything has the opportunity to settle down. As far as our 2 docks keeping people away from using the water, that's not true. We have several smallmouth bass fishermen that come in between the docks and fish all the time. So the docks actually are used for a good structure for fish. So people it's not kept anybody away from using the whole lake. So our goal here is to put something in that once it's in place, it's there, it's not being dragged in, it's not being dragged out. And I honestly think it'll be a better way of taking care of the environment as opposed to what I'm doing right now. And Ryan, if I could just use 1 more minute of my time to see if Ted Sherman, my neighbor, has anything he wants to add.
Yeah, he can have his own 4 minutes if you'd like.
No, you don't want him to talk that much.
Okay.
Well, my name is Ted Sherman, and we have the property next to Briggs and Franz Sorber. We've had the permanent dock for, I believe, around 12 years. And actually, I think it creates a better habitat for the fish. My son has what I call a monkey dock, who's next door. And I always have fish underneath our permanent dock. It's not so with his. And like Tom talked earlier, they're really, after the installation, there's less disturbance on the bottom of the lake than there is with putting the monkey docks in and out every year and the hoist. And I think that actually Briggs Permanent is shorter than the monkey docks that he puts in every year. I believe there might be 40 feet shorter than what his monkey docks are on the permanent dock.
Yeah, there's 250 feet out there last summer.
And as far as, I think there was something about to come in about disturbing the shoreline. But, you look at public beaches, there are people in and out of the water all the time. And but that's part of being in the water, it's part of the lake, owning the lake property, access in and out of the water. And I hope that he gets his permit for this installation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both for your comments. All right, next up is Ellis Bowl. Ellis, you are unmuted on our end. Feel free to unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
I have unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Just an hour or so ago, before this hearing started, I sent an email to Aaron Emmington, and I'm going to, and I copied it to Briggs Sorber and a couple others. I'm just going to highlight some of the same points that I made in that email. My family has been on Lake Charlevoix since 1912, and in the email, I wonder if you could bring it up, Aaron, on the screen so everyone could see it. I showed a picture of a seasonal dock that our family had in the 1920s on Lake Charlevoix, almost directly opposite Ironton on the north side of Lake Charlevoix. And it's a seasonal, you can see it's a seasonal dock. It goes out 100, 150 feet. You can see a couple of kids about to go out onto it. And we recommend that the Sorber family utilize that same technology, which is what they're already doing. There is one mistake I want to call attention to in my email, and that is that I stated on the second page that this email would interfere with the enjoyment of neighbors whose own docks are shorter, and that was mistaken. I've now come to realize. So please disregard that statement. One question I have, and I'm sorry I didn't bring this up in the question period, is it's not been mentioned whether there would be bubblers or water circulators associated with this dock. I'm not sure that's anything that Eagle has any jurisdiction over, but it would be helpful to me, and I may follow up with written comments if I hear something about bubblers or circulators that are planned for this area. The main thing I want to call attention to is a passage from a publication endorsed by AGL and by MSU Extension called Protecting Michigan's Inland Lakes, a Guide for Local Governments. And I'm just going to quote a couple of sentences out of that publication. It says 90% of all lake life is born, raised, and fed in the area where land and water meet. The shallow water and the first 10 to 15 meters of shoreland forms a ribbon of life. Let's underline that word, ribbon of life, around lakes and rivers that is essential to the survival of many species. This rich, complex habitat supports plants, microorganisms, insects, amphibians, birds, mammals, and fish. It's so important to protect that ribbon of life, and this structure, which is going to encourage other structures, similar structures, being built along the South Arm and other places along the lake. And I'm concerned about the cumulative effect of a variety of permanent docks being added all along the shore of say South Arm, and this property is only 150 feet wide. And if there's a series of other properties also 150 or 200 feet wide, right nearby, and all along the South Arm. If every one of those puts in a permanent dock, which is what this is going to encourage, then we're going to have suburban sprawl, not just on the land. We're already worried about suburban sprawl on the land. Now we're going to have suburban sprawl in the water, and it's just going to have an overall effect on the quality of the lake. I do join the other scientific-based comments, but I wanted to, mainly by the picture that I sent, which Rick Sorber has a copy of, and Aaron has a copy of. If Aaron could possibly show that.
Ellis, you're out of time, so we're going to have to move on to the next person so that everyone has an equal chance to make a statement. A couple other, I guess, just to address a couple quick things, is we're not able to share anything else on the screen at this time, and I will be providing Aaron's contact information in case anybody has any follow-up questions from this hearing tonight. So thanks for your comments, Alice. All right, next up is Sophie Buckholz. So Sophie, we will unmute you, and then you can unmute yourself and begin when you're ready.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. All right. My name is Sophie Buchholz. I am an employee, the Great Lakes Policy Specialist with Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians. We are currently in the process of preparing a written statement, a written comment on the matter, but we just wanted to go ahead and go on the record and say that we do not think that Eagle should move forward with this permit, and we oppose this project. Thank you very much, and you'll hear more from us later.
Thank you much for your comment, Sophie. All right. At this point, I don't have any other raised hands. We'll give it a couple more seconds in case someone hasn't made a comment yet, but would like to. One comment per person. And let's see here. Okay, looks like Tom. It's one comment per person. So Tom, go ahead. We're going to unmute you. You can make a comment.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Just really something I forgot to mention in the course of my presentation that relates to the suggestion by many that a seasonal structure is always a better alternative. Just to point out, as Brig was mentioning, sort of that process of dragging a hoist in and out each year, and especially upon installation, is for folks to just think about when this happens, right? So typically in Lake Charlevoix, seasonal docks are being installed throughout the month of May, really as soon as the ice comes off, throughout the month of May. And in recent years, we've been watching them be installed well through the month of June and even into July. And I think it's worth noting because each of the permits that we are granted to dredge, virtually every single one of them prohibits any activity in the waters between May 15th and July 15th, specifically to protect that ribbon of life that Mr. Bowl was mentioning, because it's recognized that those are critical fish spawning in migration times. So those seasonal alternatives are being installed and dragged through those spawning beds, specifically during that exact time of year when construction activity is often prohibited. And that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the comment, Tom. All right, if there's anybody else who'd like to make a comment, you can, and you haven't made one yet, just click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. If there's anybody on the phone, you can just select #2. That will raise your hand. We'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. If we don't have any other comments tonight, we'll move on to the next part of the evening, which is going to show you those other ways to make a comment, and as well as provide you with Aaron's contact information in case you have additional questions that come up. All right, and I am still not seeing any other raised hands. So Aaron, would you like to read the closing statement tonight?
Yep, sure thing. Thank you all for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until March 2nd, 2025. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via My Enviro portal, email, or US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
All right, many thanks, Aaron. As Aaron mentioned, there's other ways to submit an official comment in case you didn't get to make one tonight, or you didn't want to make one, I should say. Through submission HQ5, TWQM, HT7DW, the links in the chat. I believe we'll probably put it in there again if we can, or by mail to Gaylord District Office, Water Resources Division, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, P.O. Box 30458, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7958. Comment period is open until March 2nd. And then as promised, we actually have Aaron's and Joe's contact information on the screen. Aaron can be contacted at 989-619-8519 or at emmingtone@michigan.gov, and that's EMINGTONE@MICHIGAN.gov. And then we have Joe Haas, the district supervisor, whose phone number is 989-330-9252 and can be reached by email at haasj1@michigan.gov or haasj1@michigan.gov. And I should say that's the number one. All right, that almost wraps it up. Joe, do you have any closing comments for us tonight?
Yeah, just real briefly, I would just say thanks everybody for your participation, your comments, your cooperation. We appreciate your interest in this proposed application for a permit by taking the time to attend. That's really it. Just thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, many thanks, Joe, Aaron, all of you on the line. Last thing I'll leave you with is just a reminder that this was recorded. It will be on Eagle's YouTube channel in a couple of days, so you can check it out there. And then I hope you all have a great rest of your night. Thanks again for participating in the hearing.